Please watch the video until the end. The last scene reveals the truth and a final twist. Chapter 1, The Quiet Town. Our town never seemed to have storms, at least not the kind that drummed at doors and left windows shivering. The weather was calm, but there was a different kind of storm that rolled through our lives, the slow, creeping fear about children who vanished without a sound. I grew up with that fear. I raised my daughter with it. My name is Mara. I work at the clinic near the old mill, but people know me mostly as the one who keeps watch. People come to me with small wounds, or with questions about scars that don't heal. They confide in me because I listen. It's a small town, and secrets spread like ivy. They said the tall man lived in the spaces between streetlights. A story left by parents so their kids wouldn't wander too far. A grown-up myth to wrap around a frightened child's shoulders. When Emma came along, I told her stories at night. I kept the shadows close to the wall and the imaginary tall figure in the corner where it belonged, a story. For months, the warnings were only whispers. A missing boy in winter. A child who didn't come home from the field. Each case left us with the same empty feeling, a house quieter by one body, a bedroom that smelled like someone who might return. The sheriff said it was a pattern but not cause for wild stories. Still, we learned to lock our doors and leave the porch light on. Chapter 2, The Knock at Midnight. One night, months after I had convinced myself we were safe, there was a knock at midnight. Not the nervous knock of a neighbor asking for sugar, but an even, practiced rhythm. I woke with my breath stilled. Emma's bed was empty. Her window was closed, curtains tucked like hands. Shoes were by the door. The house smelled like the jasmine soap she loved. I called her name until my throat burned. The town woke then, slamming doors and lighting candles like beacons. People came with flashlights and hope. We searched for hours. We found small, strange things, a footprint long and thin pressed into damp soil, markings carved into a fence post, a scrap of blue cloth caught on a nail. The scrap of blue matched the ribbon Emma braided into her hair. The sheriff shook his head and said he'd put men on it. The radio said they were looking. But words are fragile when the truth hides in the angles of a dark house. That night, standing on my porch while neighbors talked in low, nervous tones, I saw someone in the distance, taller than anyone I knew, moving like a man who didn't care about light. He vanished behind the row of warehouses near the old hospital. People called him a rumor, a tall shadow with a coat that swallowed the moon. I called him something else in my head, the man who took my child. Chapter 3, Following Shadows. I stopped believing in waiting. Sleep left me. The next morning, I went to the old hospital alone. It sat on a rise outside town, hulking and hollowed. The place had closed years ago after some scandal that people never named. Children's laughter used to leak from its windows, they said. Now only rats and rumors lived there. I carried a flashlight and a bag. The door was padlocked, but padlocks mean little when someone has reason and resolve. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old medicine. The ward was a ruin of toys with no children to claim them. On a table I found papers, old patient lists, typed names with dates. Some names were scratched out. A name near the bottom caught my eye, a short, tidy entry with Emma's last name. My hands went cold. Then I found drawings pinned to a board, childish scrawlings of houses, trees, a tall black figure looming over small stick figures. Names under the drawings. Different handwriting. Various ages. All of them small. All of them suddenly unreal. Chapter 4, Inside Hale House. The ledger led me to a name, Hale House. It was written in the margin of a brittle letter. Folks in town remembered the name with a shiver. It was a charity once, an old woman told me. A place for children with nothing. But she spat at the memory like it tasted of rot. Hale House had been a private home turned shelter and then a place donations mortgaged into influence. People with money called it a noble cause. People without money learned to fear it. The ledger held records of placements. Children moved under the care of Hale. Some were adopted, some were moved to other towns, many had no explanation beyond a signature that read the same, M. Hale. I found a hidden room behind a false wall. It smelled of cedar and paper. Inside were photographs, children, smiling blankly, with new last names scrawled on the back. A ledger with dates and locations. Maps with routes to other states. There were also lists of supplies and a separate column of strange codes. Beneath the dust sat a hat, tall and narrow, like someone who believed the hat made the man. The letters on a brass pin read, Hale. Chapter 5, The Truth in the Light. I confronted the shelter with the ledger in my hands. They denied everything at first, until an old worker named June sat me down and told me a different story. Mr. Hale believed he was saving the town's future, she said. He took what he called problem children, kids whose parents were poor, or gone, or used up. He promised them a better life. It's how he justified it. People gave him money. The sheriff trusted him. Money makes people quiet. She pointed to a folded page that showed a list of neighborhoods and odd times. It read like a schedule for taking children quietly from their homes. People had been paid to look away. The tall man wasn't a myth so much as a method, a tall man, a borrowed coat, a plan carried out by those who believed in Mr. Hale's version of mercy. June told me where the children went, a compound 2 hours away, wrapped in false names and corporate forms. She gave me a key with shaking fingers. If you go alone, she said, don't expect to get everyone back. Her eyes said she had already learned that truth. Chapter 6, The Escape. I drove through night and fog, following a map like a guilty pilgrim. The compound looked like a nursery run by ghosts, neat cottages, playgrounds without children's laughter. A high wall kept the world at bay. Men in pale jackets moved like bureaucrats who think themselves saints. I hid until dusk. When I slipped through a service gate, I found a room lined with beds and a dozen small faces turned toward me with a kind of blank hope. Emma sat on the windowsill, hair braided but pale. She barely recognized me at first. Her eyes looked as if someone had rearranged them. I couldn't bring them all out. The staff had numbers and protocols and a way of making threats sound like care. I took what I could, Emma and 2 other children whose names I learned as we ran. The alarm was not a dramatic bell but a soft, human noise, footsteps, calling for names, the sudden realization in the faces of the men in pale jackets. We ran through the dark like thieves running from the light. I drove until my arms ached and my hands shook. Behind us, I imagined Mr. Hale's hat like a silhouette against the moon, watching us recede until we were only a fear he had sown into towns and people. Chapter 7, The Tall Shadow Remains. The sheriff's office did a raid after a reporter broke the story. There were headlines, apologies, and a tremor of justice that felt like a temporary stitch over a deeper wound. Hale House was exposed. Donations were frozen. Names of officials were traced in ink and anger. many children came home. Some refused to leave the places they'd been told were better, their minds folded into new patterns by promises and routines. We celebrated, in a fragile way. Emma slept through the first storm after we returned. She woke up in my arms and asked me if the tall man was still coming. I told her no, that the tall man was gone, and she hugged me like she believed it. But sometimes, late at night, I hear a knock that is practiced and even. I see a shadow that is too long for any man on our street. I read names in grainy photos and wonder who agreed to silence and why. Mr. Hale was charged, but he walked his hearings with a kind of calm that convinced some people he had been misunderstood. He slipped through court doors with allies and lawyers. The town learned a lesson about easy charity and quieter cruelties. We learned that people with good manners can make terrible choices if they think they are doing the right thing. Still, even as life returned to its daily rhythm, I kept a pair of small shoes by the door and a flashlight under my pillow. I learned to listen to the night as if it were keeping its own counsel. One evening, months later, a neighbor knocked on my door. She was pale and breathless. She said her niece had vanished. She whispered the same old question that sounds like a wordless fear. Did I think the tall man had returned? I looked at her and then past her, into the street where the porch light made a little sun on the pavement. I felt foolish and dangerous at once. I wanted to shout and to protect and to promise. So I took my keys and the ledger I had copied and said, "Come with me." We went to the car and drove toward the warehouses, where shadows still collect. The town had taught me that silence helps those who want to hide. I don't know if we stopped him that night. I do know I am still listening. Some monsters wear hats and have neat ledgers. Others hide behind the language of help. When the light falls wrong and a figure appears too tall for its frame, I stand up. I open the door. I remember the way a child's fingers curl around mine, and I refuse to let those fingers slip into the dark. If you liked this tale, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, leave a comment, and share the video.